as we continue. Okay, so today I want us to discuss a case study. I hope you have already summarized this case study. Is that true? Sarah? So you have not even tried to try to answer these questions. Sarah, you need to be, you need to be a bit fast. Though you joined us late, but you need to be a bit fast. I believe you're not writing all the notes since we were together last semester. So in this case, I want you to understand how you're supposed to answer questions on the case study. Since as you can see on the notes, I have also included an assignment. There is an assignment on a case study which we will expound here, and then you go later on and try. But always ensure you write these case studies and try to answer them. So okay, let's see what we have here. So we have Tom. Tom is 55 years old man. He's suffering from hypertension. You see the high blood pressure. The blood pressure is 145/92. So remember when we were talking about the blood pressure, we talked about if the diastolic pressure is above 90, actually 95. It's supposed to, the high blood pressure is supposed to be at 95, but once it is above 90, that is considered as being high blood pressure. So if it is consistent, a person is diagnosed with hypertension. So the diastolic one is the one which is considered most. Though even, as you can check, even the systolic pressure, the upper one, the systolic pressure is still high. Then apart from that, he's having high low density lipoprotein cholesterol. Remember what we talked about the LDLs. The LDL, they are harmful cholesterol. So when they are high, it shows that that person is at risk of any cardiovascular diseases. He's also having high density lipoproteins. The HDL, they're supposed to be normal, as in they're not supposed to be low, since these are the good cholesterol. Since the HDL, they assist in the elimination of the cholesterol from the bloodstream back to the liver. But LDL, they circulate around the bloodstream. So when they are high, they show you have high amount of cholesterol in your blood. So you should be able to differentiate between the two, the HDL and the LDL. The LDL are the harmful, HDL, they are the good cholesterol. Then apart from that, in his history, you can see he has a strong family history of heart disease, meaning genetically, Tom is at risk of suffering from cardiovascular diseases. He reports that he often eats on the car, and so and frequently he consumes fast food restaurant. So you see, this is a risk because you cannot tell the type of fat that is cooking on the restaurant. So since remember on the management of the CVD, we talked about the fat is supposed to be saturated, not it's supposed to be unsaturated, not saturated. The saturated fats are the solid one, the unsaturated are the liquid. So the liquid one are the one which are preferred because their level of cholesterol is not as compared in the solid fat. So in this case, you cannot tell the type of fat that is cooking on the restaurant. And that's why this is a risk factor, as in this is showing that the dietary habit is not okay. Apart from that, he works for long hour, and other than gardening on the weekends, he does not exercise. So the physical activity level is a bit low. His height is 5 feet 10 inches, and weight is 220 lobs. So with this, once you have height and weight, the first thing as a nutritionist, you should be able to calculate the BMI. Sarah, do you know how to calculate BMI?
Yes.
So in this case, we have weight in pounds and height is in feet and inches. Are you able to convert, for example, can you be able to convert feet to meters and inches to meters? And also you're able to convert pounds to kg, right?
Yes.
Okay, so I believe you'll be able to calculate the BMI later on. Remember, I expect you to send me a photo on the assignment part. You send me the question that I have sent plus this assignment plus this question. I need to see how you will approach this case study. And then let me admit Firdosa. Okay, then his breakfast is usually on cheese, egg, biscuit, bacon, coffee without milk or cream. So you see, bacon is very high in fat. If you check cheese is also very high on fat, and these are the trans fat and the saturated fats, which are supposed to be discouraged when a person is suffering from any type of the CVD. So you can be able to tell basically Tom diet, as in the diet is very poor. It needs to be addressed by a nutritionist so as to control the high blood pressure and other signs and symptoms that is putting him at risk of other cardiovascular diseases. I hope, Sarah, you can be able to identify that. From the case study, once you are reading the case study, you should be able to summarize on your own. What can you identify? What is wrong with your client? You need to identify that so that you can be able to answer the questions. Once you interpret the case study, you definitely can be able to answer all the questions. Then from there, now, so once you interpret your case study, you're able even to see the assessment part, and you can be able to tell how can you be able to address, what are you supposed to correct, how do you address your client, and so on. So then you go to the next part. Here we have the nutrition diagnosis. So, but here, the only part that we have, remember the nutrition diagnosis is supposed to be a PES statement, but here we only have the P part, the problem. This is not a complete one, but it is helping you to understand the case study. One is that Tom is having excessive energy intake. From the assessment, you can be able to tell from the amount of fat that he's consuming, from the amount of food that he's consuming. He's as well having excessive intake of fat. He's having excessive intake of fat, which is supposed to be reduced. He's having excessive intake of alcohol that is supposed to be reduced as well. Inadequate fiber intake, because in his case study, we cannot see any type of vegetable which he's consuming. And remember, fiber is supposed to be to help in the management of, for example, the weight. Maybe when you calculate the BMI, you'll see that maybe he's overweight or obese. Then he's also having inadequate calcium intake, inadequate magnesium intake. Maybe from the assessment, you can be able to tell the diet is not rich in these nutrients. And remember, we had the discussion on the micronutrients, which are supposed to be consumed to assist in the management of the cardiovascular diseases. You can go back to the notes. There is that discussion and how they work. In this case, we had calcium, magnesium, potassium. Also, we had vitamin C, and all this, they assist in the management of the cardiovascular diseases, especially managing the sodium. Sodium is supposed to be reduced, of which you see in Tom diet, we have excessive sodium intake. Why? Because of the fast food from the restaurant, the intake of things like cheese, the fast, also things like bacon. These are processed food. And what happened is that salt is added as a preservative. So in this case, you can be able to tell that sodium is Tom is having excessive sodium intake, and sodium is supposed to be reduced in a person who is suffering from any cardiovascular disease, or a person who is at risk of suffering any cardiovascular disease, because it worsens the conditions. It increases the pressure. It even make a person to start having edema, especially on the lower limbs, that is the legs. Then another problem, you can say it is overweight or obesity. It depends with your interpretation of the BMI. Like I've said, remember, Sarah, we have said that you will calculate, you'll do all this calculation of the BMI and interpret whether he is obese or overweight or normal. So I need to see your interpretation of this case study. Then there is Tom is also having another major problem on the food. So in this case, you can conclude that he's having food and nutrition related knowledge deficit. He doesn't know. Maybe he's consuming this food because he's not aware, or maybe he's not aware of other solutions that he can use. Then we have the undesirable food choices and the physical inactivity. As you can see on the case study, we have seen that he only participates on the gardening only on weekends only. So meaning that the physical activity is a bit poor. So or it's a bit lower, and you know, physical activity can help in the regulation of the blood pressure, regulation of management of weight, and so on. So those are the major problems that you can be able to identify. So you see the first question here, it is asking which interventions would be the most beneficial for Tom. So, see, Sarah, that can be answered now. Sarah?
Yes.
Can you be able to answer that question about interventions? You know, okay, let me explain something about nutrition intervention. So this is basically whereby you can talk of nutrition education, you can talk of nutrition counseling, or if you give in a supplement. In this case, I don't think like you'll give in a supplement, or okay. So in this case, how do you address that? Education. You know, Tom, one thing, he's having food and nutrition related knowledge deficit. So you need to tell him about food. Food, for example, when you tell him about carbohydrate, what do you mean? Which food are these carbohydrate rich? When you're talking about protein, which food are protein rich? When you talk about fat, which fat do you prefer and why? As in, you need to make him aware first of all these things. If you talk about like he's having inadequate calcium intake, so now where can he get calcium from? Where can he get magnesium from in the diet? Where can he get potassium from? Then sodium, which food are rich in sodium so that he can be able to avoid them. Are you getting?
Yes.
Yes. So this is on the education part. Also, you can inform him about the importance of physical activity. All in all, don't forget that you need to explain to this person his condition, like what is hypertension, and then what is putting him at risk. You see, something like genetics, he's already at risk of cardiovascular disease because of the family history. So you need to make him aware so that he can be able to make better choices in life. Are we together?
Yeah.
Yes. Apart from that, so after you're through with the intervention, after you educate him, now you need to go to the counseling. Encourage him to consume which food, which fat, which fiber, as in why are you advocating on fiber? Explain to him about BMI, which he needs to manage if he's overweight. Are we together? So in this case, for you to be able to answer this question on nutrition intervention, I want you to go back to notes, the notes that I've given you on the cardiovascular diseases, especially on the general management of the cardiovascular diseases. How is cardiovascular diseases supposed to be managed? Go through the risk factor and identify the risk factor on the Tom case study. Identify the risk factor and see. We go through the nutrition management, both on the micronutrients and macronutrients. Are we together?
Yes.
Then lastly, the other question is about what signs and symptoms would you want to monitor and evaluate? So in this case, one of the sign and symptom which you would like to monitor is Sarah. What would you like to monitor on the if Tom was your client as a nutritionist?
The weight.
The weight, that is correct. Another thing, blood pressure. You see the blood pressure is high, so that should be monitored. Like when he come back again, you really need to see whether his pressure is controlled or not. Also, with these are all these, their signs and symptoms about the LDL, the HDL. He needs to take those tests again. Are we together? Also, diet is a key thing that you need to monitor. So you answer the questions as per the case study. Answering of the case study is very, very easy. This is the easiest thing that you cannot afford to fail, Sarah. Last semester, I realized that you are not able to answer the questions on the case study. So, like for example, we have this question on our assignment, and like I've promised you, I want us to go through this case study, and then you'll be able to answer the questions on your own. Is it visible? Can you be able to see this case study?
Yes.
Okay. I thought it was not visible. Okay. Okay, so let's see. So we have Miano is 60 years old, a man who has recently transferred to your facility. Now, this facility, this is where you are a nutritionist, from another town. He has come at the urging of his wife for heart checkup. At his 63 years old, brother has recently had a myocardial infarction. What is myocardial infarction?
Heart attack.
Thank you. Heart attack. So in this case, Miano brother was as in he was diagnosed with heart attack. So in this case, the Miano's wife, as in, has tried to talk to Miano to go to the hospital, since it can be genetically transmitted or it can be in their family history, the heart conditions. Then this is the Miano examination. He has no symptoms of angina or palpitations. This is about the pulse rate, how the beating of the heart. He has no symptoms of maybe high pulse rate or so. He has history of osteoarthritis, but no medical problem of chronic nature. So he's having issues to do with the arthritis of the bones. So this is the common condition that you find people as they grow old, that they are suffering from arthritis, but it can be managed. He does limited physical activity, partly due to osteoarthritis. He gave up smoking 6 years ago. He drinks approximately 2 glasses of alcohol every night. He has no family history of diabetes. His blood pressure is 160 out of 95. So already this can tell you that he may be suffering from hypertension. Yes. Then his BMI is 28 and waist circumference is 108. He has elevated LDL. LDL, these are the low density lipoprotein. Now we have talked about this. These are the bad cholesterol. So you have to note that, differentiate between LDL and HDL. So now let's see the questions. You see, Sarah, after you have understood the how to interpret the case study, actually here everything is summarized for you. So you see, the first question is describe the following term: myocardial infarction, angina. Then we have osteoarthritis. So arthritis is basically, we have the inflammation of the, a person is having inflammations on the joints, actually. Hoping you can tell that. When you're doing such an assignment, what you do is you can even try to Google some terms that you cannot understand, or something that is not on your notes. Then you see that one you can be able to answer comfortably, I believe so. Then the other one is interpret the following findings from Miano examination. Blood pressure of 160 out of 95. That one I believe you can be able to interpret. You can tell what is his condition. BMI of 28, how do you interpret that? Waist circumference of 108, how do you interpret that? Sarah, I won't answer that for you. Then identify 6 factors that may have predisposed Miano to osteoarthritis. Those one you will answer. Then we have state 5 ways in which Miano can modify can modify his diet to lower his LDL levels. Sarah, so that is easier now. Sarah? Hello? Sarah? Sarah, are we together? Hello? Sarah, I want us to end this class.
Yeah.
Have you understood how you can be able to
Hello.
answer? Okay, have you understood how you can be able to answer this question?
The waist.
Waist circumference of 108.
Yeah.
I want you to go and find out how to interpret the weight circumference. You did nutrition assessment, Sarah, under certificate level. And remember, you're waiting to sit for that exam. Go back to your nutrition assessment. You'll see how you're supposed to interpret waist circumference. Okay?
Yes.
Yes. So kindly answer those questions. I believe you can be able to answer them. And At least try it by do them over the weekend and send maybe on Monday or Tuesday. Are we together?
Yes.
Okay, you can have a good day.
Same.